going on, Archons? Welcome to another edition of KeyThoughts, my weekly musings on this great game of KeyForge. And this one is actually a follow-up video to go into something that I mentioned on the video that I dropped before this one. So if you haven't seen that one, go check it out. There is spoilers in it. I do talk about the Equidon cards that have shown up since Gen Con. So with that in mind, it basically got me thinking about how we see cards in, I guess, a pre-release fashion. So we don't know how they are together in a deck. We just see the composition of or we don't get to see the composition of the cards in a deck. We see the entirety of the cards in a house and then start thinking about, oh, this is so awesome and this and that. And then it turns out when you see the way a deck comes together, that may not actually be the case. And basically, for me, what really made me think about this is if we go into Worlds Collide Brobnar, the perennial punching bag of anything that is wrong with the game of KeyForge, right? So what made me think about this is I remember seeing this house in particular and thinking, oh, this is really cool. So like, for example, let me see if I can do some things here. I cannot do what I want to. Oh, rarity. Here we go. So we're going to go commons, because these are the ways you got to look at it. You wire it down to the commons, and let's do uncommons as well. So these are the cards that you have the potential to essentially see the most. Now, when you look at these, you're just like, heck yeah, this is cool. And this is what I thought about Brobnar. Like, I thought lots of Berserker Slams, which I'm still waiting to get a triple Berserker Slam deck, but that's what I thought. Blood Money, awesome. Barn Raising seems cool as well. The Gangers obviously are just a staple. And you just start going through some of the cards here and you realize, like Smith, that it's pretty cool. Like, some of these cards are not half bad. But the truth is, you kind of got to remove the uncommon and really just be left with the common cards. And the things here, like, what don't I care about? The Brews, for one. Don't really care about those. The Narps, don't really care about those. Warrior's Refrain, again, don't really care about those. But I mean, if you look at the commons, the Warrior's Refrain only affects one thing. But when you actually end up seeing the composition of the decks, out of all these which are really helpful, I would say the most helpful cards here are Berserker Slam and Ganger Chieftain. That's the truth. And then you may consider Barn Raising and Volcano, but for the most part, Shorty as well, I've always been partial to. But when you look at this, your most common cards here are Ganger and Berserker that you want to see, which means the majority of the other ones you don't care about. Groaks are fine as well because they're going to do a little Ember Control action, and paired with a Barn Raising and a Ganger, that looks pretty nice. So you're getting this weird situation. And I mean, yeah, we go to this one here. I'm obviously talking about Brobnar, but let's go to Untamed and see what we got here. So Untamed is, for me, one of the weaker ones as well. This one, you see what you have here, and for the most part, like Ghost Hawk and Regrowth, Mystic Marmook, those are all really nice ones, but again, you know, not the greatest commons. And now let's go to where things got a little bit more interesting. Then we go over to Saurians, and what do we have at common? You got Tribute. You have, like, hello? Let's try and find the ones that are not amazing here. That's like Bruton Auxiliary is arguably not amazing, but way better than anything else in the other sets. Like, there is actually not a unwanted card in the common set of dinos. Let's go to Star Alliance. Explore Over, you could argue, is one you don't really care too much about. King Can is more of a nuisance, but nothing crazy. I mean, but everything else, again, you wouldn't be disappointed to see these. Let's just kind of go, I just want to go through all these here. even when we go to shadows, not half bad. Like there's nothing here that you're like, eh. I mean, you could make an argument that, I mean, bad penny, really, but everything else, pestering blow is whatever. I mean, like, wow, it's not bad. It's not half bad at all. Even logos, like, look at these cards. They are not things like thorium plasma is maybe the worst one here. Aside from that, these are all quality cards. Like you're having Tao, you have the daughter, Edai, Igor, like all amazing things. And then we go to Dis. Dis is maybe on the weaker of the, but still not really. Like you have Misery, Exploit, Not Finished With You, which they have their place, but I mean, those are the two that are going to do the least. Aside from that, like these are still all pretty good. And then let's go back into Brobnar again, and then you see Brobnar. And it's essentially just bodies on the board that aren't doing anything like it. So you can see this common pool is nothing like the other ones. And then we go to Untamed again, and still, yeah, this one is still second worst for sure. So I was just, it makes me think about, you know, how things work that way. Let's see how Mass Mutation kind of comes up in this regard with the commons. Again, logo's not half bad. Sanctum, there's stuff here. Sanctum is the commons are not amazing, but they're still pretty solid collection of cards to go from. But again, not as enticing. I think the Worlds Collide had the greatest disparity. Like even when I look at this, like there's, you can see that the cards you're like that pop out to you as being great are like there's quite a few, and there's other cards you're like, okay. But unlike that Worlds Collide, the imbalance that created, see, I feel like things got better here, and now I'm wondering even more so now as I go on about this, how different will these compositions be given the fact that there was an algorithm in place that no longer exists. So whatever existed in terms of saying how things show can technically be rewritten in a different way now. So that is one exciting thing that exists with going into this new way of seeing how things are going to come together. Oh, excuse me. I don't know. I just yawned like that. Stifled it. But yeah, even just looking like in the past, like you see what's there. There's an interesting pattern in some ways when you look at the comments of what you're going to actually see. And I just find that we're in a place where we might see something really interesting happen now that we're getting a new algorithm. Maybe the distribution of certain things will be different. Because again, I'm super excited to see this new thing. We're gonna get to experience the game in a new way for so many reasons. Obviously, new house, new composition of houses together. We're gonna see Mars and Brobnar getting to pair with Star Alliance, or I guess more so Mars getting to pair with Star Alliance, which has never been done before. And I think most of us are pretty keen on seeing a fun Mars Star Alliance deck come together. But going back to the original thing that I was talking about on how the cards at common in Worlds Collide Brobnar, which really put the spotlight on this fact, like it's not that it's not just that the majority of the cards are kind of underwhelming. It's that the thing that would make you excited is a few cards getting multiples of. It's not getting an array of these cards in your deck. That's not what you want. You want to see multiples of singular cards in here to really make it exciting. So just kind of wanted to take this moment to talk about that and think about that, and how we're going to be seeing these spoilers come. We're going to see the Equidons. We're going to develop ideas of like potential things that could happen. But at the end of the day, depending on how they're distributed and the way they come together in a deck, which I mentioned in my last video, is really going to determine how great any given house will be. And I find when you first open stuff, and I really have the excitement and everything. You're like, wow, this is so cool. Look at this. Look at all this stuff. It's when you're into like your second or third display worth of deck visuals, and I'm not saying you just crack 3. I'm just saying like the experience of playing and having those new cards, that you really get to feel like, okay, I'm probably going to see X, Y, and Z in every single deck when it comes to this house. It's very rare that I won't see at least 2 out of the 3, if not all 3. So it's just something to keep in mind as we go, and do not get carried away. Please run away with your imaginative excitement and the magic Christmas lands you want to see exist within KeyForge decks. But just remember, Brobnar from Worlds Collide. And we need to temper our expectations to a degree, because I think you can let yourself get disappointed. But if we know that there's a possibility that things are going to come out differently than we imagine, it'll just allow a greater room to fully take in what exists. Side note, avoid spoilers, and then you don't even have to worry about that. But I think this time around, it's going to be harder to resist the urge to see spoilers, not just because there's a new house, but because we've been so starved for anything with KeyForge for like a couple years now. And plus there was the uncertainty of whether KeyForge would even exist anymore. So that's going to make us want to see and just get hype for what's coming. So just keep this tidbit in mind. And as always, folks, may your ember never be stolen and your keys forged promptly. Have a good one.